I promise this is the most boring slide we're going to look at, but it's important. Mayor mentioned a survey. We do have more than 1,700 people that have filled out the survey. When we started doing these town halls, I took about the first month of survey results. And we're going to use these to kind of structure the conversation tonight. But it's important you know who filled out the survey, right? I mean, and anybody who does any surveying, you want a survey to reflect the community as a whole and not just particular slices of it, right? So we need to just cover really quickly what the survey results are, who they represent here. So left, sample, those are the people that filled out the survey. Right, population, that is the entire population of the city. And so let's talk about some of the similarities and differences here. So for people who filled out the survey, roughly 80%, we'll call them, are between the ages of 25 and 54. And if you look at the city as a whole, that's only about 56% of the population. So what does that mean? That means that as of when I pulled this data, young people and older people, notice I did not say old people, older people, right, are underrepresented in the survey results so far. So that's one thing to keep in mind as we talk through this. Second thing, household income, $75,000 and up. That was about half of the survey respondents. And for the city as a whole, that's only about 30%, right? So we have more, we'll call it young to middle-aged people filling out the survey versus the population, and they're also higher income. Third, post-secondary education. About 7 in 10 survey respondents have a completed post-secondary degree. That's not just bachelor's, that's a certificate all the way up to a PhD. And as a whole, for the community, that's only about a third. So a little higher income, some more educational attainment. And fourth, survey respondents, about 2/3 or so were female, and only about 48% of the population is female. Okay? Make sense? Okay, so as we're talking through some of this, just keep this in the back of your mind. So, I'm going to start out with a question. What do you like about living in Edinburg today? We'll talk about the future here in a minute. But what do you like about living in this city? Whether you were born and raised here or you moved here, what do you like about it? And there are no wrong answers.
I'm born and raised in Edinburgh, and I love that it's safe. Any corner, there's a traffic stop. A couple miles down the road, there's always a police officer right there ready to protect the other area.
Great, thank you very much. What else?
We have another over here.
I'm a transplant from another state, just recently moved here. I came here for the weather, closer to family, and I really enjoy, you don't see this where I come from. They don't listen to the public. They just do what they want, which is normally fill their pockets. So I'm really impressed just being here today. Also with what you guys do for walking pedestrians with the sidewalks, the parks, because they're building a new park right by where I live, which I think is wonderful.
Great, thank you very much. If you don't mind me asking, where did you move from? Illinois? I do see a fair number of Chicago plates. I just moved here myself about 2 years ago from Tennessee, so I catch the out-of-state plates. There are a few people from Illinois for sure. What else? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I like the small town feel and the parks, especially the one on Raul Longoria, the municipal park. I think that's one of the best in the valley. So I like the places where we can go and be outside in Edinburgh.
Thank you very much. Yep.
I'll say this coming in here for the city of Edinburgh. I think it's, you know, the combination of multiple things, everything from education, the retail, the business climate, you know, very, very proactive as far as, you know, welcoming in people from all walks of life, so to speak, and being inclusive. So yeah, really love what Edinburgh's been doing.
I'm going to ask some follow-up questions sometimes. So business climate, what do you mean by business climate? What makes Edinburgh unique in that?
So looking at the availability of everything from infrastructure to city staff, I'm coming in from another city meeting that I had earlier, and one of the things that really catches the attention of other cities is it's like, and it was, and I'm not going to name the city, but they said, well, we're not Edinburgh. And so I said, you don't need to be Edinburgh. You just need to think outside the box, And so I think that's where I've seen the progressiveness. And, I personally myself, I'm a real estate broker here. I office here in Edinburgh. And so seeing, I've been here since 2017 when I moved from Harlingen, which isn't even a smaller city, and seeing how much the city has done and progressed, prior to, even with prior administrations, whatever that is, I'm really impressed with the vision to continue the growth more than anything.
I appreciate you remembering our deal. I'll give you your $20 in the parking lot later. What else?
I like that we have the university, we have the county seat here. We have, I think, 2 hospitals. We're close to the expressway, so if you want to travel to San Antonio, it's real easy to get onto the expressway. And we have, some, I guess we have that stadium. I forgot the name of the stadium, Bert Ogden Arena, and the other stadium. So we have that, and it looks like it keeps on growing, so that's always good.
Thanks, sir. Anybody else? Going once, going twice? Okay. Let's see what the survey respondents said. So we ask a series of questions about community perceptions, and you try to ask the questions in a little bit different way to try to tease out different responses so you can learn from different responses. So look to the left here, or if you're on the handout, same thing. Edinburgh is a place to live. 87% said they were satisfied. Place to raise children, 86%. Place to work, 3 out of 4. Quality of life, 3 out of 4 satisfied. Place to retire, about 70%. 70% also of respondents are satisfied with the city's image and consider the community a welcoming place for people of diverse backgrounds. So we heard some of that, right, in the comments. Any reactions to this? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Are you surprised? No? And we'll put you on the spot. Why not?
Here in Edinburgh, Texas, y'all, there's nothing like home. And we welcome every nationality. And I'm going to say to Blue, you welcome. When you stop us, you care. You don't antagonize us. And this is Edinburgh, folks. There's nothing like Edinburgh. And I tell you what, let's invite everybody to Edinburgh. We are the Rio Grande Valley, and this is our region.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Anything on here surprise you? Okay, moving on. And we'll have a chance to come back to some of this later. Okay, so here's a take on, it's sort of the same question, but we want to talk regionally now, right? So we can say, what do you like about living in this city? Now we want to ask, what differentiates Edinburgh from other cities in the valley? What makes us unique, right? And so part of my job at the city is to work on economic development. And within that, we are trying to tell a story that's specific to this city versus other cities in the valley, where people who may not be that familiar with this part of the state or this part of the world, they might not have any idea what makes each city unique in the valley, right? So what do you think? What differentiates Edinburgh from other cities in the valley? What characteristics stand out?
Don't want to hog up the mic here. So what stands out for me, there's a museum. There's not that many cities out there that have a museum. There's also a racetrack. Also, once again, other things that other cities don't have. There's an IMAX, the only one in the valley. There's, you know, the stadiums, the university, you know, everything from the farms. You know, there's a lot of cities, you know, that they'll be densely populated, but they have no farms. So they don't have people or the ability to have residents, you know, stretch their legs, people that are coming in transplants and say, you know what, I want 5 acres. You know, the quote unquote, you know, proverbial American dream, you know, the white picket fence. You can have a mix of everything, whether you want dense, you know, residential or, you know, the suburban, you know, sprawl. You know, it's all here. You want high class quality medical? It's here. You know, you want, I think the only thing we might be missing is an office high rise, but that's something else. But, you know, there's an e-courthouse. So, you know, there's a lot of stuff where I think that everything from the, I guess, the availability to have public services reach out as far as they do, from water to light, irrigation, I mean, you name it, that there's a little bit for everyone. It's not just a, you know, one-minded, you know, one-trick pony, so to speak. A lot of things to it.
Good. Thank you very much. What else? Why are you here and not in another city in the Valley?
We have one here.
Yep.
One of the things that Edinburgh does have is got the feedlot. And Edinburgh, for us that have land to the north of here, it's also home to a lot of the ranchers that go out there and take care of the cattle and bring them in. It's a real, you know, there's no other city that's got a feedlot, I mean a sales barn, not a feedlot, but a sales barn. And every Saturday, you know, it's a good supply place for cattle and stuff. And it is close to heading back to the ranch and stuff. You also bring in, your ISD also brings in people from McCook and all different parts from all the way up to the King Ranch. And that's all in itself. The bus trip down here when I was a kid was an experience. And that's one thing that's unique about Edinburgh is that it is home, but yet Northern Hidalgo is also home to a lot of these people here too, because this is where they come to shop and to do what they have to do.
That's great. Both these comments echo what we heard in some of the other town halls, where this city provides a diversity of opportunity no matter how you want to live, no matter where you want to work, what you want to do. You can find pretty much anything here, whereas you might not have that entire diversity of options in other places. That's good. What else?
So not an original thought, but to build on some of what has been said. I think that this diversity of thought, I think also that Roel spoke about the university, maybe the county seat. There's also the museum. It's a little self-serving because I work at the museum. But it's a regional museum that I think helps us to reflect on the entire region, on the history and the kind of the heritage and the culture of the region. But there's something about institutions, I think, that Edinburgh that really help to differentiate Edinburgh from other communities in the valley. So you look at the university, you look at the museum, and there may be other institutions here, the county seat, I think, also. And there's something about also the school district historically that has been in line, I think, with how these institutions like the museum and the university have grown up. And so what I mean by that is that they have been able to nurture a particular diversity that is also tolerant. So that if you look at the arts, for example, across South Texas, Edinburgh has been a leader in the generation of the arts, generation of the creatives. And I think that it's no accident that the university has been here to be able to nurture those kinds of impulses that are creative in nature. So that I think that creativity breeds tolerance, attracts people to the place, And other places don't quite have that. I think McAllen kind of has that because McAllen also has a good museum, but McAllen and has STC. But STC is still much more of a community university, whereas the UTRGV is a university. It's a place of the world. And so you have all kinds of people and all kinds of ideas from all over the world that come to the university, which is good for the community. Because it helps us to expand our way of thinking, more vistas, more worldviews than just one worldview that a lot of smaller communities tend to be kind of like, gripped by. And I don't think that we're gripped by one kind of worldview. And I think that helps this community. It's one of the reasons that it's different because of the institutions. And then the institutions do something to people. They do something to people. They sort of push people to be more creative. I also happen to think that we can be much more creative. I happen to think that we're just really scratching the surface on that. I think we can be one of those, so there's a book from a while ago, 15, 20 years ago, written by Richard Florida, The Rise of the Creative Class. And Richard Florida writes about the most creative communities in this country are the communities that invest in the arts. And those communities tend to be the most tolerant communities. And it just so happens that those communities tend to be the most economically vibrant communities. So squash creativity, you squash economic development. And you squash tolerance, and then people won't want to come here. This community is not that. I think this community invites difference. And that's a virtue, I think.
Thank you very much. And don't let me forget online. Are there comments online?
Not yet, but I'm sure we'll get a few soon.
Okay. I think we had a...
Thank you so much. My name is Mario Liscano. I'm the Administrator of Corporate Affairs for DHR Health, but I'm also the incoming president for the Edinburgh Chamber of Commerce. So I want to thank Councilman Diaz for contacting Ronnie and making sure that your business community is also being represented here and provide our input. One of the things that's very important for us is everything that everybody has been saying today, there is a quality of life, and that I think that is very important here. Regionally, when we are bringing in people down to visit from other states and other areas, they're coming in to bring their families down here. So it's important for us to see that growth, not only with our school districts, but you also see that the charter schools are now coming into Edinburgh. And everybody talked and spoke a little bit about one thing that was different from the other cities, but you can do a comparison of it. And that's something that's very important, that sometimes you have to let people know this is what we are doing. And I think that here is a good place that we can put all of those together. One of the most successful parts of an advisory board I sat on was with the census. And those of you that don't know, Edinburgh was the highest city in the Rio Grande Valley that actually had a census count above anybody else. And it was, Mr. Tom, Mr. Jay that brought in something that I think that we should continue, which is we brought in a committee of different industries. So we brought the realtors, the developers, the restaurant people, the schools, the universities, our churches, we haven't touched on, and what it brings to it. But something that we do have here is a lot of history. To me, I think of it as a regional look of it than anything else, because just so you'll know, you have the only trauma level center down here south of San Antonio, which is in Edinburgh, Texas. And we have great health systems here. So I can proudly say that if anything happens anywhere now, we are bringing in people from Brownsville, Laredo, and from Corpus Christi to this area because we are trauma level 1 here in Edinburgh. Another thing that's also important is that now there's a lot of people here in the Rio Grande Valley who they're going to a women's hospital where their kids are being born in. So a long time ago, we were all born at McAllen General Hospital in McAllen. Now everybody's born in Edinburgh. And you can say when we have, the number of births that we have every month, now we're about 750 to 800 a month. Just imagine, that's a small elementary school. So there is a lot of investment here within the city. And it's important for us to maybe continue that type of industry advisory boards that bring different industries. And I was blessed, and thank you, Mayor, for allowing people from not just from Edinburgh, but from the industries. So whether we were from other cities, we were able to bring our experience and our know-how in whatever specific industry we had to help out how we can bring in the actual census count. So I'm proud to work here. I've worked here for 17 years, and you know it's important for us that we push for all our region. But it's important today that we pat ourselves on the back because Edinburgh has done great. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Another item is, like I said, bring myself close to family. My folks live in Brownsville, and their neighbors come up here to shop. They make the drive all the way to Brownsville to shop. And what you guys were saying about the college, you're bringing young people, they're seeing how it is here, so they're going to choose when they get out on their own to come here.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember, do you want to? Yeah.
Okay, so this is the third one I've been to. I moved here after the military in the 90s, 92, and looking at the question, hearing the input, I finally have a complete answer. What brought me to Edinburgh? It had a big city flavor because of the university, because of what happens during the day, because of the arts. Dr. Guajardo, thank you. But it also has a pride of country. With Alfredo Gonzalez, Congressional Medal of Honor winner. I'm a veteran of the military. All that put together made me want to stay here. I knew when I moved here in 1992 I would eventually build a home, raise a family here. So now I have an answer. What differentiates Edinburgh from other cities in the RGV? Edinburgh has a big city feel, but it's country at heart because we've got the room to have ranches, the American dream, and it's hard to find a place where you can have that. Big city feel with the arts, the university, 2 hospital systems in our little city. Little, not anymore, right? But when I moved here, Edinburgh was always the little brother, McAllen, the little brother, and it's no longer that way. 2 major hospital systems, a growing university, a medical school, potential law school, and so all this we had a joint meeting with the CAB board, all these artistic PhDs in our city. It just goes to what Dr. Guajardo was saying. The university has bred a certain type of people that stay and contribute, and we have that. We have that big city feel, but we are country at heart.
Big city feel, but country at heart. I really like that. I moved here from Nashville, though, and you may be infringing on copyright. So, note takers, let's please make a note, check copyright on that, because we may steal that. Okay. Anybody else before we move on? Okay, so here's where we're going to start looking out into the future and getting creative about how we want to describe our city here. So help me complete this sentence. In 2040, Edinburgh is. What's the first thing that comes to mind? What do you want it to be? Whether it's, and this can be, you know, something you think we do well or that you like and you want to see more of. This could be something that you are maybe less satisfied with and would like to see change. Can be anything in that range. In 2040, Edinburgh is.
You know, I'll say this because I have young kids right now, right? More arts. I feel that there's an opportunity for growth. One of the things that we travel to, you know, talking about, you know, people coming in from Brownsville up here to Edinburgh. I drive down to Brownsville to the Children's Museum. You know, I highly enjoy it. I think they've done a phenomenal job. And I think that if, you know, the public and the private sector and individuals kind of look at what city leaders can do, there's an opportunity for growth in that. I know that there's, you know, the events and And I guess councils that have been set up, like the South Texas International Film Festival, the Edinburgh Arts Foundation. I mean, there's a lot of things going that have helped get Edinburgh to where it's at. And so if the vision would be for me is that if we can have more cultural arts, you know, for kids' museums, I think that can go a long way in helping, you know, the community understand, grow where we came from, where we're at, and where we can go. I mean, now you can realistically say you're a neurosurgeon that lives in Edinburgh and works in Edinburgh. You know, 30 years ago, you couldn't say you were an astronaut that lived in the Rio Grande Valley. Now you can. So if we think it can happen. So my 2 cents.
You all are much more eloquent than I am. I'm just going to give this mic to you guys. Can just keep it up and facilitate the rest of this.
To answer your question, sir, was involved with CAB, with Don Francisco, and I am now involved with the Edinburgh Arts Foundation. And Letty is going to vow for me that, yes, we're going to have all that. And if you look on McIntyre Street near City Hall, we already have the amphitheater going up. We're going to have an art walk, and we're going to have a cultural arts center. So yes, we are moving forward, sir. It will come.
Thank you, sir.
We have a comment on this side, Brian.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm an engineer, and you know we've got this things on climate change coming up that's supposed to be in everybody's mind and stuff. So in 2040, I see us becoming more fossil fuel independent or away from it. But the thing that we've really learned with COVID and all this stuff, it can get worse. When Uri came in there, we had no water. Edinburgh needs to be self-sustaining. It has to be able to be, you know, with the supply chain problems that we have and stuff, you know, we can't run out of certain things, water, whatever is a major one, but it just needs, I think it really needs to be in 2040, we need to start becoming self-sustaining and also be part of the changing with the climate.
Thank you, sir. You may be standing in the back, but that does not mean I won't walk back there. So if you have a comment, don't be shy, staff.
Thank you, sir. In 2040, I think that the city of Edinburgh is going to be growing into an area that will be on billboards in Mexico, that will be on billboards in San Antonio, Austin, to come visit Edinburgh, because it's one of those cities where you want to go, where you know that it's an area that can grow. And we can't compare it to other cities like McAllen, like Brownsville, or any other cities, because Edinburgh gets its own city, and it's going to get its own name brand as the city that we are, the city that's growing, the city that's growing with industrial, with retail, with the people, with arts, with everything that's going on here. And it's going to go, and this is going to start with our leadership and with our staff and with the great support that we have right now from everybody that is here today. So I just want to say thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. You can take the day off tomorrow.
We actually have a comment online.
Oh, great.
From Justin Longoria, who's joining us from Facebook. He says, in 2040, Edinburgh is healthier. He would like to see facilities in Edinburgh that promote health and possibly a tourism spot for others in the state. He wants to give people a reason to come and want to visit. So thank you very much, Justin, for watching and participating.
Yes, thank you very much. What else?
Well, I think in 2040, Edinburgh is going to be the leader in healthcare, education, economic development. Edinburgh is the gateway that's going to represent the entire valley. That's no longer going to be in the shadow of any other city. That's what I feel Edinburgh is going to be in 2040.
Very well said. Just to put some numbers behind that. So 2020 census, right? So in those 10 years, 2010 to 2020, we grew by about 30%. We're over 100,000 now. We grew by 30%. Just to put that in context, That's more than 2.5 times the rate of the next fastest growing city in the valley. 2.5 times. Very well said. Good point. Yes, sir.
Yeah, in 2040, Edinburgh, I guess, should be a city that has, it's a healthier city, in a more walkable environment, a world-class public transportation system. You know, the city, well, you know, the whole region, we have a you know, huge problem with diabetes and obesity. So, you know, I know Edinburgh, it doesn't have a lot of low-income health clinics. The other cities have a lot of subclinicas and other type of clinics. Edinburgh lacks that. Edinburgh lacks food banks. They don't, I mean, there's not really any good food bank here. A lot of people, especially during the pandemic, that was a big issue with people, you know, just being food insecure. So hopefully in the year 2040, Edinburgh makes, you know, those big investments in the community, you know, to improve the you know, the health of the community, because without a healthy community, you're not going to have a healthy workforce. So we need, you know, Edinburgh needs to invest in that.
That's a great comment. So as we grow, we make sure we're accessible to everybody, right? And the rising tide lifting all boats. That should be the goal of whether you're talking about economic development or anything else, right? So that's very well said. Anybody else? Okay, so that was sort of part one of our talk, sort of lowercase c, right? Talking about the community as a whole. So now we're going to talk about, you know, uppercase C, and what the city government is doing well or not so well, or what you think the priorities should be, whether it's next year or it's 10 years from now. Okay? And I've tried to point this out to the rest of them. This is not about sitting around and praising the job we're all doing, whether it's anybody at the city or anybody else, right? We want, the whole reason we're doing this is to get honest feedback. So don't hold back. What is the city doing well? But we are going to start positive first. So what is the city doing well? What do you think your city government is doing well?
Hello everybody, Freddie, born and raised here in Edinburgh. I think what the city is doing well is, I'm going to give you an example. Each weekend when my family is out and we have little children, there's not a loss of things to do, whether go to a park, go to an activity that the city is doing. And it's not a whole fiesta the city's putting on together for a weekend or 3 days or whatever. You have your cities around the valley that put those big events on and they try to cater to their population. It doesn't seem genuine, they're just doing it. There's a natural set of activities going on the weekends, on the evenings, where it's family friendly. Our kids can go, splash pads, exercise, ride bikes. So the city's doing well in providing and maintaining those facilities, maintaining them well lit, the grass is cut, things like that, so that we can go out there and enjoy them. And once y'all open them, you don't just let them, you know, sit idle and grass grow long. You know, you take care of them. So I think that's what you're doing well.
Thank you very much. What else?
Well, the obvious is that it's doing this. What the city's doing well is that it wants to learn and grow instead of saying we know everything. I think that's very, I mean, a lot of great things start with humility and understanding that people change and demographics change and community changes, and just seeking input from actual residents is really something the city is doing well.
Thank you very much. I will give you an opportunity to say something here in a little while. What else? What else are we doing well? Don't hurt my feelings. There's got to be at least one more. All right, we're going to go to Ronnie back here.
Thank you. I'll say a couple of things from the business standpoint. You know, we've had the privilege to attend a lot of ribbon cuttings and groundbreakings, and we've had some great feedback from some of the businesses moving to the city of Edinburgh or opening a second location or their first location, and there's been a lot of compliments through each department, whether it's from the planning and zoning through fire, through inspections. So from the ground up, all the way to the opening the door, there's been a lot of compliments as far as the staff being welcoming and helping them. A lot of our business owners they're not engineers or they're not architects or they're not, fire experts, so they lean on the city's support to help open their doors. So I will say that we've heard tremendous compliments, especially on the planning and zoning side, as far as helping them move forward and live the American dream. So I will say that from a business standpoint. So I want to thank everyone that's involved in that process, which is pretty much the entire city staff when you sit there and look at it, even through the council, the staff. It's from the ground up. I did want to make a comment in regards to the staff. So the chamber isn't directly under, but we're great partners with the city, and we do serve the same purpose and mission. And I will say there's a lot of pride and a lot of love by the city employees. And what I want people to know is that we're here to make a difference. We're here because we love this city. We're here, we're very hungry. The staff's very hungry. The council's very hungry. So I know that, it's headed in the right direction, and everyone is doing this for our community, not for themselves, but for the love of this city. So you can take that to the bank as far as if you're a citizen or a future business owner here in our city.
Thank you, sir. Let's do one more. I think I saw one more hand here go up. What's one more thing? Maybe it's something that hasn't been mentioned. What are
We
we doing?
actually have another person
Oh,
joining
perfect.
us on Facebook. And now it's Javier Carrion. He says the city is doing well with communication, with the happenings and concerns in certain areas. And he says transparency is also very visible as well. So we thank him for that. Thank you for participating.
Excellent. Okay, so let's see how we did here. So survey respondents. We ask about most departments, most functions of the city. And it's the same kind of deal as the last slide here, so percent satisfied. So fire, 83% reported being satisfied. Library, 3 out of 4. Police, 72%. Parks, 69%. Cultural arts, about 2/3. We also asked questions about basic customer service, very important to us. 58%, so pretty good majority here of respondents are satisfied with customer service they get from city employees. And this was one that really stood out to me. 37%, so roughly 1/3 of people that filled out the survey have contacted the city for something. And for information, problem solving, whatever it is. A little more than 1/3 contacted the city in the last year. And 2/3 said it was easy to get their question answered or their problem addressed. 2/3. That's really, really good. Just for some context, I used to do surveys like this in Nashville when I worked there, and these scores are much, much higher than what we were able to achieve there. So we should all be very proud of both of those statistics, I think. Anything here surprise you? Anything stand out? Would you generally agree? And again, I just pulled out the 5 highest ranking functions. We got a whole list. We'll get to the bottom of the list here in a second. Okay? So let's talk about the other side of the coin. What does the city need to improve? What do we need to do better? What frustrates you? What might you expect that needs are not getting met? What is it that you think we should improve?
I think just basically more sidewalks everywhere, and I don't know if it's possible to have certain size businesses when they move in to make sure they create walking space, sidewalks, and maybe even a gathering space like in San Francisco, other cities that require businesses to create some kind of garden for the public. I think something like that would be nice. But sidewalks, I think that's always needed for safety and just to keep people walking.
Were you talking about community gardens? So things like where vacant lots are, people are allowed to take them over and, yeah, those are pretty neat. What else?
Yeah, I think the city, the city is big and it's wide. It's like a large area. There's only one library, so, it needs more libraries. I know like McAllen has, I don't know, like 3 or 4 libraries, and they have the library and the community center concept, like it's a half library, half community center. So that's another thing that Edinburgh needs. It doesn't have a lot of community centers. So, investing in more library community centers, better internet, and more low-income health clinics. There's a lot of poor people here in outside the city limits or close to the city limits, so they need more investment in healthcare for low-income people.
Thank you, sir. Yes.
Mine is a little bit more low scale, but something that Brownsville does that I kind of liked. Over by the highway, they have the signs for what lane are turn lanes, what lanes are straightaways. They're actually up on the bridges. Because, there's a lot of traffic there. It's the highway. I know with me, it's like, okay, which one lane is turn, which lane goes straight. You're not going to be looking so much on the pavement, but you can see those signs that hang over the overpass.
Good suggestion. I do want to pick up on something this gentleman said about the city being very large. This is a very large city, right? Part of that, we talked about the benefit earlier of having the diversity of experience, urban, rural, everything in between in a large, geographically large city. But there are challenges there too, right? Public safety friends, how many square miles do we have? 40, right? Yeah, 41? 41 square miles for a city of only about 100,000. So that's a lot of territory. And trying to serve everybody equally here is a challenge, right? It's a challenge we face every day. So, there are two sides of these issues too. What else? What else comes to mind?
Hello. Thinking about exactly what Edinburgh needs is because of the vast majority of land that Edinburgh does have and it's mapped, a diversity of, I understand it's leading that way, but it's commercial businesses accessible for others that have to come into town quite a bit. I've been living in Edinburgh since 1991. And it has grown. But accessibility for other people that have to travel, because a lot of it has to do, are we honest with what's going on? Edinburgh's area of commercial ability is a little far away from others that are living north of Edinburgh in the rural areas. And that's what I would see the city would think that they could improve accessibility to others, just like other towns around in the cities do have. Several commercial grocery stores accessible for others. Like an example would be H-E-B just planning itself differently in areas of Edinburgh as an idea as a whole for other families. That's what I think the city needs, accessibility, instead of going to the same route. And also, roads. The same roads are being used most of the time because people are so used to them. But accessibility of other roads to go and get there safely as well is what I think. Because they use the same ones, well, of course there's always going to be traffic jams. That's a no-brainer. So accessibility of roads that we do offer, a lot of people don't take them because it's not the norm. And so there's plenty of roads that can have access for others, but like that gentleman said over there, probably signage is very important. Just what the need of the city to improve in the future. That's what I'm thinking. As a mom, especially also.
Thank you, ma'am. Although I did see a head nodding here. Would you like to?
Yeah. Speaking about the roads, I don't know who's in charge of the roads or what, but some of these roads need to be restriped because you can't see at night, especially when there's no lighting. You don't know if you're on the shoulder or in the middle of the road or in the other lane. Somebody needs to address that as far as restriping the roads.
Thank you, sir. Coming back here next.
I think that it's hard for nonprofits to really thrive in this community. I run a nonprofit organization, and I have a particular appreciation for the challenges to maintain a staff, to keep the doors open, to be vibrant, to be able to grow. And my organization gets assistance from the city, and so we're very grateful for that. But I wonder about nonprofits that don't get assistance from the city and the struggles. And so I guess that what I'm pointing to is whether the city can be better about offering capacity building support for nonprofits that have really important functions in the community, whether they be around healthcare or indigent care, or just to help people who maybe need some help, and whether those nonprofits may be strong and vibrant and might need some investment from the city. I don't know, because I haven't investigated that enough, but it seems to me that, like with my nonprofit, the city helps with funding, but then that's it, I think. So is there more? And what about other organizations? Is there more for other organizations? And I also have to say that, we would love more funding. That's always a thing, That's a thing. And that's organizations want more funding to be able to, hire more people and do more important work. So maybe that as an improvement is a focus on building greater capacities for the nonprofit sector. More library space, more books, more that.
Thank you, sir. Yep.
Well, let's see. We're talking about 2040. Drainage. Do we have plans for that? We get a hurricane. Just food for thought.
All right, we'll do one more here. Make my way around.
I think I was going to piggyback off of your comment there. Drainage and brush pickup, I think, might be a thing. Obviously, with storms rolling in more often than we're used to in the past, definitely brush pickup, I think it, can be an issue for a lot of these, outlying residents that don't necessarily get, readily as serviced as fast as maybe other parts of the city. So I think that might be a kind of a food for thought there on what can be done for brush pickup and drainage.
Excellent comment. Okay, so let's see how your comments compared to what the survey respondents reported. So if you do a rank order of just the opposite, right, percent dissatisfied, 48% said they were dissatisfied with the state or the maintenance of the streets. 39% named drainage as the highest ranking one, or the lowest ranking one, depending on how you want to look at that. And roughly a third said traffic. And so this kind of stuck out, just running the numbers, just kind of stuck out to me. The majority of respondents think that the city's first priority should be streets or drainage, right? So if you add those together, that's the majority. So just those two things. And if you look at those three things, streets, drainage, and traffic, I put approximately equal, but it was a little bit more. When asked to name your top three priorities, more people said those three things than every other city service or function combined. So it was a pretty clear message on what the priorities should be. But, and Tom will kill me if I don't mention this. What do you also notice about these numbers, right? Is 48% a majority? No, right? It's lower than 50. It's a little less, right? So on whole, and especially compared to other cities that do similar surveys, this might appear negative, but we're actually doing okay. Because in no category did the majority of respondents say they were dissatisfied with the way the city was addressing the issue. So, do we have work to do? Do we have some challenges? Yes. Are 80% of people dissatisfied in a certain area? No. Or at least they lied to me on the survey. One of those two things. And since it was anonymous, I don't think they were lying. Questions? Reactions? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Are you surprised? Okay. So again, I mentioned in good surveys, you ask the same question in a couple different ways because people will respond differently. So instead of asking people to rate city services, we asked it this way. What are the city's greatest needs? And then we listed out, I think, 25 different options for people to put high priority or low priority. So before I reveal the list, what would you say the city's greatest needs are? And let's put aside drainage. Let's put aside maintenance of city streets. I heard healthcare earlier, heard some other things. What would you say the city's greatest needs are that just aren't general categories like drainage?
Lighting, street lighting.
That was an excellent guess, sir, but I think you cheated because I've seen you at one of the other forums. But you are right. That was the highest ranking, high priority item on the entire list was street lighting. Now, there wasn't a huge amount of separation with some of the other items, but street lighting was number one. Education programs, 72%, crime prevention, you can kind of read down the list here. And so I stopped it at about 2/3, reporting high priority. Sometimes it's easier to react to a list or edit than write. So looking at this list, what do you think? Yes, ma'am.
I think, as any growing city does have, obviously, all of these are very important. A lot of these have to do with the growth of the community, but also has to do a lot with the growth of families and the growth of bringing other people here because of the advertisement of the city. So one of my concerns is like crime prevention, because we are so close to the border. We are so close to access to what's going on. Things come our way. We're the first city that they actually go through here on I-69. I mean, it's very intense. There's a lot of colonias, that's something that we have to improve the quality of for families. But that has to do a lot with, again, education, getting them educated, And so as we grow, these numbers are going to grow also. I think there's a parallel. We have to actually, for me, youth services, youth centers are very important. They're all very important. But it also has to do with the quality of families, and I am not disrespecting any family whatsoever. I'm just saying the quality of how they're educated as a family and what they stand for to actually bring up their children and help as we grow as a community. Because all I see Edinburg going is moving forward in a very positive way, but it does not take away that something's going to go less. Does that make sense? And as a taxpayer, I do want to see more of and I support a lot as we grow, a lot of the street lighting. And again, I go back to the last slide about how traffic is. It's very important how the dynamics of the infrastructure on how a city is built. I mean, I was just in Houston, and I mean, that's ridiculous. And then you see how they are, all the maquiladoras, where they're located, in location. It's very important, and they did it that way. San Antonio also. There's a reason why a lot of big companies put their plants in a certain area, because that's just the way it's going to work. So if something has worked for many cities, it's going to have to work for us as a growing community also, because we cannot continue growing in the same area and not grow further where we have more accessibility for land for other families. I don't think that's right personally, because they need also that type of environment as well. So that's just my opinion. I think these numbers are very much a need, and they're going to keep growing, or will be the same as we continue to grow anyhow.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes.
Regarding our crime, is there more crime now so than 20 years ago or 10 years ago? Yeah? Oh, yeah. So are we educating our kids in school? Are we having you all go out to schools and tell them that you are the good guys? You are? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, what about the question on the right, too? What would you like to see in the city that we don't already have? This could be anything. It could be a certain retailer. It could be an amenity for the community. It could be anything.
An airport, and not the one we have right now. I'm talking about passengers.
Okay, passenger airport, commercial airport.
Maybe more restaurant options, especially like late at night. It's hard to find. Like after 9 p.m., you know, most restaurants are closed. We don't have a wide range of. You know, I don't want to go to McAllen to buy food late at night. I want to buy it in Edinburgh, but it's kind of hard sometimes. I don't feel good about that. We had a restaurant, that little Italian restaurant that was on Cano. Yes. It closed down, and then you know, love to go there. McAllen got it somehow, but I don't know.
Somehow.
So yeah, how did McAllen get it? Yeah, I mean, how do we get those things? And can we have more of those? Yeah, good food, a good range of food in a community, and also a good healthy food also. You know, like do we have the kinds of options that a good healthy community needs? It's all connected, of course, you know. Good health, obesity, diabetes. You know, a lot of the food around here is bueno para el diabetes. Like, but yeah, that's kind of a thing. That's a thing. Good restaurants.
Mr. Guajardo, you're absolutely right. And I don't know how many of you know of Trevino's restaurant north of Edinburgh? Raise your hands. Okay. Isn't it dark by 9 o'clock? You can't see? Yeah. Anyway, street lights.
What else? We'll go here and we'll go over there.
Yeah, I mean, I wish we had a better looking downtown area with more like patio restaurants or, you know, outdoor dining restaurants, and just, you know, like you go to other towns like, you know, Wimberley or Burnie or, you know, towns up in the hill country where there's a lot of shopping opportunities in your downtown area. And then there's also, you know, wish we had, this is a college town, and there's really not any kind of entertainment, you know, nightlife here in Edinburgh. So I guess somehow that needs to be, you know, we need to work on that, bringing that in.
Thank you, sir. We got one over there.
One of my points on the crime stats, while I was at work, I have to travel around a little bit, happened to see a guy appeared like he was snorting something. I told my coworkers about this. They all laughed and said, "Welcome to the Valley." So evidently, that is a thing. I don't want that to reflect on any of these gentlemen here. I am very supportive of the police department. And to your question, what we don't have that I haven't seen is anything to help lower income families be homeowners. When I moved down here, I didn't want to rent, but I couldn't afford anything outside of renting. I don't want to rent anymore. I would like to be home ownership. So I don't know about building codes for this area. maybe like a tiny homes, something energy efficient, low income, families can afford, I would think would be a good thing.
Diversity of housing types. That is an excellent point for people of all income levels. What else? We got time for maybe one more. Nobody has brought up Cheesecake Factory yet, and I'm sorely disappointed.
You beat me to the punch. Of course, more restaurants, more big box retailers, maybe like Cabela's. You know, South Texas is big on hunting. I mean, more grocery stores. I mean, you go to any H-E-B here in town and it's packed.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so I've got roughly 7:15, 7:16. So before I call the mayor back up here to talk about next steps and kind of where we go from here. Oh, Councilmember, go ahead.
Yeah, Brian, before we go on, just, and you know, we've gone through these, we always want to respond, right? But a couple of things that I'd like for you to just say, because we all want the restaurants, we all want the growth north, but all that depends on rooftops development. They build the stores, the venues when there's development around there. Dr. Guajardo made an important point, but Brian, if you could touch on the numbers, the Edinburgh dollars, the impact of Edinburgh dollars in McAllen. If we could keep those dollars here, it would attract other businesses. There's a lot of Edinburgh money that goes that way. And to the gentleman's point, I know we already talked about it in city council, so please announce there's a neighborhood going up soon, a couple neighborhoods for low income, that there's monies for developers, and just touch on a couple of those things, please.
Well, sure. So to your point about housing programs like down payment assistance, we do have a lot of those things here in the city and in the county. So what that says to me is that we may need to do a better job getting the word out. Communication is always a challenge. And so, you know, if you've got suggestions, we would love to hear them, because we try to do the best we can, but we can't reach everybody. As a matter of fact, some of those housing programs, is anybody here from community development? I mean, some of these years we can't give away all the money we have. So yeah, I appreciate you bringing up that point. And, you know, the council member's right. To the extent we can shop local, those are the numbers people, whether it's Cheesecake Factory or some other restaurant or retailer sitting in Dallas or Houston, they're looking at rooftops and they're looking at consumer spending. Those are things they're looking at. So the more you can do that here, the more options you are eventually going to have. I know we got some realtors sitting here going,
That's a chicken and egg situation, because this side is saying we want to buy food here and we want to go grocery shopping, but I have no choice but to go to McAllen. So who's going to go first?
And should you have to drive across the city, right? I mean, we talked about accessibility and making sure that people had options in all parts of the city. So that's an excellent point. It's an excellent point. Oh, got some comments back here. Let me go back there first and see if he hasn't said anything, and then I'll come back to you.
Taking consideration, you know, the recent census and the growth of Edinburgh, and, you know, as you say, the need for rooftops to drive development, what steps are you taking to kind of streamline the development process and the building permitting process? I would probably recommend steps in order to streamline that process. And to build on another comment, I would also, I guess, make the comment to beautify and rejuvenate some of our main corridors, specifically 107 between the square and Expressway, and Klausner south of the town square. So.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. I'm going to reference, if you don't mind, youth services and youth centers. before. I want to thank the city of Edinburgh for hosting the final town hall here. But we purposely walked through the doors instead of the side gates, one for security reasons for our children, but so you can hear the sounds when you walk through those doors and you hear hundreds of voices that we serve every day. So I wanted to, one, recognize the importance. It was twice on there and more than about 2/3 were listed on there, right? Both of them. The partnership that the City of Edinburgh has with the Boys and Girls Club and other youth services. Now, we don't do competitive sports, so I'm not talking about those youth services. I'm talking about the year-round, daily, Monday to Friday, every day after school, feeding our community kids, hot meals, helping them with their homework, making sure they exercise every day, and they learn to say no to drugs. Every time the Boys and Girls Club of Edinburgh calls on a city department, like the police department, they're here and they're always willing to help. The fire department, any department, they're always willing to help because they know that, we serve a lot of children here. We're in housing authorities here in Edinburgh. We're on county property. We're on city property. We're kind of everywhere where a Boys and Girls Club is needed. So 2040, Boys and Girls Clubs. Thank you all very much, City of Edinburgh. Thank you for the council member who mentioned why we're here as well. The partnership growing and blossoming even bigger and better. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for hosting.
We have a hand here.
So I've got no data to support what I'm about to say, but I can guess that maybe there's public money left over for, say, I don't know, subsidies in housing or whatever it may be. Maybe because of a language thing? Could it be? I mean, I just noticed how we do this in English and in sign, but it could be a significant part of the population out there that doesn't understand either. That may be Spanish-speaking people, that may be low-income people perhaps, and that may have a desire to own a home, but maybe may not know how to access the resources of a city that does things in English. Maybe we're doing it in Spanish, I don't know, but there's no evidence tonight of that. And I'm not trying to be hard on you guys on this, because I know you guys are doing good work. But it occurs to me, right, when you said, what was it that you said? That there's money, sometimes it's not?
Somebody was listening?
Oh. But but people who may be monolingual Spanish speaking don't even have a shot at that, to even be critical about what you're saying in English. And I'm saying this as somebody whose parents didn't speak a word of English and whose parents would not have been in the loop or had access. And my parents are not unique. There's a whole bunch of people like my parents who don't have access to English. And so
I do have some research, and I have studied on this. We're missing the point. It's not Spanish, it's literacy. So we often think that it's a language thing, Spanish versus English, when the Hidalgo County illiteracy rate is 50%. So it's not so much that it's the wrong language, it's the wrong level of reading. We need to really bring down the understanding, and the way we're creating flyers, the way we're creating outreach, we're doing it at a higher level. We need to bring it down to like a middle school level, because it's facts that I know that some people, the library can vouch for the literacy rates. I mean, the literacy rates are ridiculous. I'm not originally from the Valley, but when I read that, I was like, what? 50%? And it's true, and that's why this place is not full of people, because they did not get the message. We gave the message, but they didn't get the message.
As far as north of Edinburgh and the rooftops that you're mentioning, there's tens of thousands of people out here. They just opened a new Whataburger right here on Monte Cristo. You need to go ask them people if they're making money. So all these other businesses that they're talking about to come over here, and restaurants and stuff, it's like that movie, Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come.
I love ending this on Field of Dreams, but if anybody If anybody has a comment, I will put that aside. No? We're going to stop with Kevin Costner in baseball. I'm okay with that. We got time for one more. Okay, so we'll stop there. I'm going to call the mayor back up here to kind of talk about next steps and close this out for us.
Let's give Brian a hand here, please. He's been facilitating these things, and he's doing a good job doing that. Talk about ending with a bang. This was a very lively discussion here. We've had them all lively, but I appreciate everybody's input here today. You know, also want to give a hand to Freddie Mata. He's our interim Boys and Girls Club director. Let's give him a hand for hosting us here also today. Thank you, Freddie. And you know, when I got here, I said, why isn't the gate open? So now I know why. You're forcing us to go through. So thank you. See, he's good at what he does, doesn't he? He just gets you through the building. So, you know, at the last town hall meeting, there was a comment made that there was about growth and 66 subdivisions. I see Steve Taylor here. So, Steve, I got so many calls the following days after that. He wrote something about there was 60. I asked somebody at the city, and they told me there were 66 subdivisions under construction in the city. And you know, I will tell you, I was talking to Davis Rankin at KURV. He's a radio personality, the radio DJ for KURV, and he was then telling me, he says, "But Ramiro, I also know, I don't think in your 66 there's other developments that are going on." He's right. You know, Steve, you printed 66 subdivisions. With the amount of growth, that is a lot of growth, but with the amount of activity that it's still not registered, those are actually filed at the city, right? Those are actually going through the process under construction. But with the EDC and all the meetings that we've had recently, it's actually only scratching the surface. So that is a good thing in terms of activity and interest in our city, but it's also illustrates how important it is, your input that you gave us here today, because we have to plan for that. You know, we can't just welcome that and just take that as a good thing and pound our chest and say, oh my God, we're the fastest growing city. If we're not gonna service you as the residents and provide a quality of life that, you know, you all deserve, then that people are gonna leave here. So I just wanted to mention that, how important it is that you're here. I so thank you very much for all your feedback. We're taking notes. There's a lot of staff here, and this is being recorded, so you know we're taking notes. So what's happening after this? Am I covering this, Brian? Do you want to cover this? So this is our last town hall meeting, March 29th. The survey ends this Thursday, the 31st. So for those of you that haven't filled it out, we ask you to, that's the deadline to fill it out. Then the report of that survey and your feedback will be completed by April 15th. And what's going to happen after that is we'll put together action plans by the 29th. And sometime in May, it's probably going to be the second meeting of May. We meet the first and third Tuesday. We're actually going to have somewhat of a work session before our council meeting. We normally meet at 6. So I'm thinking probably at 5 that we'll meet. We'll present the actual report and hopefully get some more input on that day. So that's really the next steps. Then what I like to see, and I'm going to ask council, because remember, I'm mayor, but I'm only one vote, okay? There's 4 council members and myself. What I'm going to ask council to consider after the presentation is we have a series of committees, because the key here is, okay, we get the report, then what, right? What is the follow-up? And the follow-up to me is revisiting our committee structure. We have a lot of committees in our city. We have an EDC, Economic Development Corporation. We have a Planning and Zoning Committee. We have a Library Board. We have a Parks and Recreation Board. We have so many boards. What I'd like to see is, based on this 2040 plan that we're going to come up with, I want to make sure our committee structure is inclusive of the kinds of things we need to focus on. All the priorities of the 2040, we want to charge all the committees. So if there's some committees that haven't been meeting, actually there's some committees that we have in place that Myra was going over the list with me, and I don't think they've met, right, Myra? It's just a committee that was set up at one point, maybe had one task, and is still in our ordinance. So we're going to revisit that and have committees that will focus on some of the things you all discussed here today. okay? And so the idea that I have, and again, I'll present it to council, is then those committees will meet throughout the year, right? Looking at addressing, I don't know, I'm gonna make this up, beautification committee. People have talked about, we need to, clean up, beautify our city. Well, McAllen has Keep McAllen Beautiful. We could have a Keep Edinburgh Beautiful, right? I'm just, as an example. So what'll happen is they'll work on a series of things throughout the year, and I'd like to have one town hall a year where all the committees come together, kind of like this, and have tables set up on each committee on things that have been done throughout the year. And I think that's a good way to keep everybody engaged, keep everybody active, and do it at a time, probably sometime in May, because May is when we start our budget season, right, for the city. And I know Dr. Guajardo's here, and thank you for all your comments, by the way, Dr. Guajardo, and all your plugs. We're about to get started with budget season, but it'll be at the right time to look at what we need to work on and what we need to prioritize. So anyway, that's kind of a long discussion of what's next, but I think I'm so passionate about this, and council is too, about making sure we utilize this process to improve our city. And that's the only way to do it, because we can do this and have a report that sits on the shelf, but if we don't use it for what we do as a city to operate, it's going to be a challenge. So with that, I'll end it, and I'll ask council if they have any comments. No comments? Okay, so I do want to introduce Myra to come up and say a few words. Myra Ayala, can you give her a hand, please? She's our interim city manager. I am the mayor and we have the council, but the manager's who runs the city, okay? That's who runs the day-to-day. So I do want to have her say a few words.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. I just would like to introduce myself. My name is Myra Ayala. I am the new interim city manager. I was appointed by the Edinburgh City Council, and I'm very humbly serving in this position, in this role. I just want to thank everybody for participating, and please do note that we do have discussions about how important your feedback is to us, because we want to be able to provide the best services that we can to the community and the services that you deserve. My role is basically to make sure that I execute the vision of the council, and their vision is to make sure that we continue to provide the services to the community and to continue growing, right, in a positive manner. So I want to thank everybody. Thank you, everybody at Facebook Live. My door is always open, so if you ever need anything from the city manager's office, please do not hesitate to give us a call. Thank you.
And that's a wrap. Everybody have a good evening, and stay tuned for the next town hall. Thank you.
Library.